Good evening. It is 6:02 p.m. Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to call to order the South County EMS Board of Oversight meeting. The meeting is being recorded. Please make sure you are muted unless you were the active speaker. All public attendees are invited to participate at the designated time following the completion of the scheduled agenda items. We ask that you keep comments to under 5 minutes. You're welcome to have open discussion in the chat function at the bottom of your screen, but please be aware the chat becomes public record. Remote participants must identify themselves or you will be removed from the meeting. This is being done for the purpose of internet security. If you wish to speak, please state your name and town of residence prior to speaking for the public record. With that, we'll call the meeting to order. And first item on the agenda looks to be approval of the minutes from January 13th, 2026.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, minutes have been moved and seconded. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Old business. First item on old business is the FY27 budget. I'll turn it over to the chief to walk us through the budget.
Thanks, everybody. I, of course, put together a presentation. Let me figure out how to share this. I always forget. I'll share. PowerPoint. Sure. All right, so. That's up. Okay, so the budget this year, of course, the big major changes are going to be health insurance. I think every town is feeling this. So the numbers that we're looking at are a 34.5% increase for just shy of $55,000 increase from fiscal year 26. And there's a Medicare tax increase of just over 40% as well. So these are things that we can't really do much about. So that's where the bulk of any increase is going to come from. For payroll, we have a couple things we can talk about. And I'll kind of walk you through each of these individually. We have a couple different models that we can look at. What I was hoping to do this evening was get your feedback. I think I already know what the answers are going to be, but I was hoping to get a little bit of dialogue going about it because maybe can chip away at this, if not now, then in the near future. But the indirect costs that you're going to see on the budget in front of you are not complete. Those are last year's indirect costs. I don't have those numbers from town of Deerfield accountant yet. This budget itself looks a little bit different than you're used to. So basically, we've included the payroll on it. This was at your recommendation. Holly, the Deerfield accountant, has rebuilt this spreadsheet, and it's kind of a work in progress, and we think it's mostly complete and looking great. And then the only other considerations is we're able to have a very minor offset through a decrease in operational costs. I think it's like $1,300 for the year. And that puts us in a place where we have very little wiggle room to do anything. We can cover all of our costs. Conservatively, we can cover things. However, it's going to be a fairly stagnant year operationally, where we're probably not going to see any advances so far as equipment, training, things like that. So you have three budgets in front of you. The first one, the option A, looks at a step increase and a 2% COLA. This is what the town of Deerfield moved to go with, is the 2%. They get the step raise on top of it. So that, with the increase in health benefits and such, the total increase to the annual budget comes out to just shy of $89,000. On the screen, if you can see it, I have what that would look like as a assessment to each member town. This is option A. And then right next to it, we can see last year's number for comparison. So that is about the cheapest option we could possibly go with. The option B, I want to save till last. Option C, because I know you're going to shoot this down, adds a deputy chief of EMS position to the payroll. That puts the total increase up to almost $185,000. And we see those contributions below it.
So just option B and option C are the same assessment, but $95,000 difference.
Oh, no, I must have done this wrong. Good catch,
Okay.
Crystal. So let's look at math. Thank you for catching it.
That's all right, I was just,
So.
Yeah, they look pretty much the same.
well, no, I was just thinking you're gonna shoot this down, but it's the same as option.
Well, yeah, yeah. That was
Good catch.
definitely,
All right, so here, option C. The total. This is what the assessments look like right here.
you just didn't transfer those numbers, yeah.
Yep, I just transferred them wrong. My apologies.
That's all right.
So. That doesn't change any of the percentages, but that is the biggest increase. So the reason I include it is because I'd like to really get a dialogue. And in a dream world, I would add that position. The feedback that I'm getting from the administration of the town of Deerfield is that really, this may not be the best year to be asking for such things. And I absolutely appreciate that. I will say that as a department, we're a little different than the other departments in Deerfield, and that while we are administered to by Deerfield, we're really a department of all three towns and are under our umbrella. So I understand that we do fit in to Deerfield's finances in a huge way. However, we kind of have our own needs. So I included it in case you want to have some dialogue. The impetus behind adding a deputy chief position is a couple of years ago when I came on board, I really tried to get some supervisory coverage for weekends and nights and occasional support through the lieutenant idea. You know, that didn't work out for us. And so looking back on it, where was that a good idea? Where was that a bad idea? I think maybe just the size of our department, that's not the best approach. So my current thinking is if we add a second supervisory administrative support person who can actually run calls, right, and can actually staff an ambulance versus an administrative assistant or somebody like that, right? That puts us in a really good position. It would definitely be welcomed from my seat because there's just simply more than one person can achieve realistically. Anything operational, I would like to shift to that position. So maintenance of the schedule, vehicle maintenance, first line reporting, things like that. General broad oversight of education. So all of the operational things, which would actually give me the time to do things like my job, right? Which is more political, which is more functional insofar as budgeting and trying to help us progress, right? So that's the idea behind it. It's a pretty common scheme for departments our size. But it's definitely the most expensive option when we're considering the budget. So going back to presentation. The option B is something different. And this is a lot closer to the first option. So this is about $10,000 more. And what this does is it allows us to make some corrections to the steps, or rather where people sit on the steps. So the gripe that I keep hearing is about how people are compensated based off of their longevity. I don't hear a lot of gripes about the fact that people are unhappy with what they're being paid. Now, of course, everybody wants to make more money. That's a given. When you look at what we compensate to our staff, it's very consistent with other high-paying agencies in our area. Compared to Central and Eastern Mass, it's incredibly low. But it's also higher than some. So it's not a bad place. However, we have a scenario where people who have been there greater than 10 years are making less money than people who have been there for just a few years. What happened is, and I'm going to get the year wrong. It was 2020 or 2021 when the class compensation was introduced. What they did was they took people who had been there for varying lengths of time and they grouped them all into the same step. So you've been here for 8 years, you've been here for 1 year, well, you're both at step 1 now. And they felt at the time that that was really appropriate because everybody gets a pay raise. The guy or, the medic who's been there for a long time just gets a little tiny raise, but it's still a raise. And the person who's newer gets a massive raise and is super happy, right? Well, subsequent to that, we've had some people come in starting at a higher step, and I don't hold anything against anyone for that, right? Good for them, that's what they negotiated. But where that leaves us is we have some people who have been there since the very beginning who are making less money than somebody hired just a few years ago. And so that's the real gripe, is that people don't feel as though their time with the service is justly compensated. They feel it's a direct slap in the face. They view it as retribution or punishment, and they wonder, like, why is this? Where is this coming from? And, that's not the case. Nobody's being punished, nobody's being singled out. It's just the way that it's evolved. So what option B, the corrected version, is everybody gets a step increase. They get their 2% COLA, everybody goes up at least a step. But the people who have been there the longest get an additional step on top of that. And it puts everybody in a pay rate that is based off of their length of service. So somebody could be there for 12 years, 11 years, right? And they'd be a step 7. Doesn't mean that they go to step 11, right? But it does put them at that highest step. And it attempts to more justly compensate. So, the counter argument that I've heard to that is, well, this is not the year for it. Because everybody's still going up a step and still getting their COLA. Nobody should be going up 2 steps, especially in light of nobody being super unhappy about their actual pay. But people are unhappy about their actual pay. When you consider what $10,000 is to our overall budget, versus what it can do to somebody's pay rate over the course of the year, it's a pretty good bargain, I feel. So this is kind of what I'd like to push for. As just a solution to a very legitimate labor problem.
So how does that stop it the next time somebody's hired and negotiates a good pay? That you're not right back in the same situation?
So where we're at right now is a pretty different scenario than when people have been hired. At this point, we have a really good mix. So I'm not looking to hire people that have a great amount of experience at this point. We have a small amount of people who are very experienced, that are top tier and should be highly compensated, right? If I went anywhere and said, hey, I want to be a paramedic for your service, and you bet I'm asking for top dollar, right?
Right.
As they should. Well, we've got a couple of them. We've got more that are kind of in that middle tier. They've got 5 to 10 years of experience, maybe a little more than that. We're gonna get another 10, 15 years out of them.
Possibly, I mean, they
Well,
get a lottery ticket tomorrow and leave.
well, I mean, I hope that does happen.
Right, exactly.
So, the point is, you know, the bulk of our workforce is kind of in that middle category. And then we have a couple of people who are newer in their careers who are gonna age into it. Right, so at this point, when I'm looking to hire somebody, I don't need to look for people that are super high experience. There's not a gap in our department right now where I need to bring in.
But if somebody left
that
tomorrow
expertise.
and if somebody left tomorrow, for whatever reason. You know, post the job, you get applicants, you get that guy that applies, that wants to do this, that is deserving of high compensation. How do we stop this from happening again? I mean, you wouldn't turn down that guy if he applied that has the great experience, right?
I don't think that we're going to be able to offer what that person's looking for. Let me backtrack, because I'm picking up what you're saying. So we just went through this very recently, where kind of one of those middle tier, like dozen-year paramedics who's been with us for a really long time, was one of the more moderate to high-end earners on the department, left and went to another agency. We replaced that provider with somebody much newer. And we did have applicants with vast experience who would have been good choices. But overall, that's not what we're looking for, right? What we're looking for is somebody who's going to fit into our organization culturally, who is going to learn, who we can mold to operate in a certain way, right? Versus somebody who comes with their own experience and way of doing things, right? We've all seen that fail before. This is clinical practice we're talking about. You know, this isn't trade work. So nothing against trade work at all. I'm just saying there's a lot of nuance to this. And this is exactly what we just went through, and it was a great choice. Like,
Josh, with your senior people that you have here, would the idea of hiring newer paramedics that may have some experience but don't have a lot of it, would your senior people be mentoring them? Would you be pairing them up with your senior people so that you would bring them up to a certain level? And I think that if that was your hiring practice, you know, you look at the person themselves to say, he's gonna be a great EMT, a great paramedic, but he's gonna need to ride with somebody to get more experience, that type of thing. Would that be something that could be incorporated into the hiring process, where you're sitting there going, so you're not worried about the person that's got, 15 years and, was a supervisor at a fire department with all kinds of experience, which is gonna come in and say, well, I think we should do things this way. And end up, being a problem at some point or whatever. But I'm just throwing that out there as, so that it would kind of streamline your hiring. So that you wouldn't be running into this problem where you'd be looking for more money to end up paying somebody in the long run.
Yeah, so that doesn't. So what we do, what I'm looking for, and we don't currently have openings, although that could happen, who knows? There's one potential opening. In the near future, but that's not certain. What I'm looking for is somebody who's kind of like that, who's not brand new on it. I'm not hiring fresh out of school,
Right.
brand new paramedic full-time to South County EMS. It's not happening. I'm looking for somebody who has a few years, has established a good reputation, has developed a good mindset for doing this line of work and makes good decisions. That's what makes a good paramedic, period, are the decisions you bring with you. And we take that person and we integrate them in a pace that's comfortable for them, right? So somebody who needs a bit more guidance, who needs a bit more support, we're going to give it to them. Somebody who doesn't need that support, we're not going to constrain them with that support. We're going to let them fly, right? Any of our full-time medics, the idea is that any one of them are capable mentors where they want, right? And we hire full-time so infrequently that by the time somebody comes on our last hire, it's been a few years. And that just proved to be the case again. So we're in a very good situation with that. Tim.
So long story short, what you're saying is that when a new opening comes up, you're looking for you're looking for a paramedic that has experience, but is gonna come at the entry-level step one position.
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Yeah, and in any hiring situation, you can say, this is all we can afford to pay.
For sure.
We
Right, you
have a
advertise.
budget to hire someone at step
This
five,
is the
six.
wage, it's not negotiable. This is,
Right.
if you are willing to come work at this rate, then by all means, apply.
And I think to your point, Crystal, if there was some giant mutiny and 8 of our 10 full-timers left.
Well, no, I'm not
because of
talking
something-
mutiny, I'm talking these guys go in on a $1 million or $1 billion lottery ticket and win, and they all say, see ya.
I think the odds are in favor of my,
Well,
that if that does happen.
it's just better than mutiny.
Yeah, sure. I thought mutiny was pretty good. If the lottery scenario happens, I'm so happy for them. You know what? I'll take whoever I can get and I might pay for it, right? But if all the expensive people leave, then I can afford to, right? So the idea here is really to reward people for the time that they have invested with our agency. Still, everybody gets an increase. And this year, that's very important because of the health insurance costs. Yes, we're paying more as a town, as an agency, but the employee is paying a lot more too. Everybody's paying more. So every penny we can give them helps to offset that. For example, I'm taking home less money now than when I started here. And that's purely health benefits.
And it's not entirely on the public sector. I work in the private sector and my health insurance went way up.
Oh, Mike.
Yeah, no,
The cost went up and coverage went down.
So that's really my argument. And I think it's the best possible option. It is not the cheapest option. We could go about $10,000 cheaper than that. And $10,000 is not a small amount of money. However, compared to the $1.9 million budget, it's a pretty good investment in our personnel.
So. Is it the B that should be? Is on this, what we're seeing here, should,
That's the B. I'm gonna bring up.
the B
that-
is wrong?
No,
The C
the
is-
C is wrong. I'm gonna bring up
Because it
the
does,
actual
so,
budget for you.
I know, but why that doesn't make sense to me now is because if it's only a $10,000 increase, how does Deerfield end up paying 20 or 30,000 more, Sunderland 20,000 more?
It's 10,000 increase over the A.
Right, but over the A, Sunderland's got 20,000 more they're paying, that's why I'm saying, should B be down, it's. I'm trying to figure out which is the wrong one.
This is the adjusted, so what we're, let me kind of walk you through it quickly, so. This is the 98,714 increase. This is what we're asking for this year.
This is the B.
This is
Option for
the B
the other.
option, so this brings our two top earners up to a step 8. And it goes down from there. What this looks at, I allocate slightly less to call staff because I think that's appropriate. I do add an increase to training here, and that increase to training up to $12,000 is still far down from what it was a couple of years ago. But it's more than it was last year. And what this allows us to do, it was brought up to my attention that our policy for paying mandated trainings reads that it will not be compensated. Not like FILSA mandated trainings, but rather things that are necessary to maintain certification or are necessary to outside agencies, but they all combine to be part of the job, right? So this would allow us to compensate for that time. And I know that, I think that this was talked about with this board prior to me coming here, but I never saw it on a line item, so I don't really know what happened to that conversation, but I would like to pay them for it.
I think what Crystal's asking is, let's just go back to the 3 flavors, A, B, and C.
So,
And then look at the numbers that follow it and see, you know, didn't you have one that's like, okay, so
this is the B, right?
go back to the one that has all 3 together, if you would. Okay, so.
Alright, cause see, there's only a $10,000 difference, but Whately or Deerfield's going up almost,
40,000.
40,000.
35, yeah.
but that can't,
Yeah, so some of these things got pasted in incorrectly, so B has to be somewhere between 526 K.
B is off, B and C are pasted
B and
at the
C are,
same number.
yeah,
right,
so,
Yeah, this C is incorrect.
Oh,
no,
no,
B
B is
has to
incorrect.
be
it
incorrect.
only goes up 10,000. It can't raise our 35,000.
I
Yeah,
understand what you're saying. Get
so
it. Well,
this is why I'd like to see the fiduciary be an accountant.
so
So
what
when we see these
so
things.
with that, so this math is not done by me, just saying this is the spreadsheet doing the
Yeah,
math.
no,
Yep.
that's fine, it's
So
just,
I think what we need to do then is probably get this back to the accountant
Yeah.
to correct the spreadsheet.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
there's something in here.
yeah, cause,
Yeah, it could just be a cut and paste that didn't happen correctly.
right, or,
This is yeah, I'm sure that's what it is.
or
So-
just looking at the wrong cell or something, but yeah.
So this is the increase here,
Yeah,
right?
it's the 10,000 increase because the other one has an 88.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the 98, so yeah,
So I think it's just not populating correctly on this second page.
Okay,
right, and unfortunately, that's,
yeah,
That's where it matters.
so the other thing that I want to mention is that, as Josh did, is that this doesn't have all the OPEB, it doesn't have all the other stuff correctly in there. So when we're not talking about a budget that's correct at this point.
It's a preliminary, but
yeah, it's a draft budget. So, do any of the other towns do a longevity bonus,
Deerfield does a longevity bonus.
so. That doesn't solve your problem with these,
It's $250 a year.
okay,
So basically after taxes. it
yeah, no,
buys-
that doesn't solve your problem. That's why I'm just looking for a way, instead of
Yeah,
changing
yeah.
steps or,
In fact, a lot of the medics view it as highly insulting.
yeah,
Wouldn't matter if you're a medic or, you know, if a step was gonna give you $2,000 and your longevity bonus was gonna give you 500. Which you're gonna want.
Yeah.
no, I get that, I was
Yeah.
just wondering if they didn't have a longevity
Exactly,
bonus,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking that would be.
Usually we try to do that when somebody gets to the top of the scale and they're not getting any more steps.
Yeah,
You know, they get their COLA, but by then they've been there. a Long time, and so
Yeah.
you build in a little.
Yeah.
DPW. or-
yes, cause Sunderland has a longevity bonus, and I think it's 400, it's
Yeah,
not, they're
it's-
not, they're never big amounts, so
No.
it's just.
Yeah, I think Deerfield's is after 20 or 25 years, it's up to like $500. It's a very small.
Yeah, so it looks like the step is about 2.5%. And then the COLA is another 2% on top of that.
Right,
And I know we're talking about public sector here, private sector, it's typically around a 3% increase. And it's usually based on performance,
private sector,
private sector.
yeah,
So, you know, the benefit to the public sector is typically your benefits are better than what they are in the private sector. You typically paid a little bit less, but you've also got usually more time off, more vacation, more holidays, typically better sick time. So, and I'm just kind of putting it out there to level the field.
sure,
So even in what shaping up as a difficult year, we're still looking at a 4.5% increase
oh, yeah, for payroll,
for payroll.
Yeah.
Which is compared to the private sector, not bad. Yes, your health insurance has gone up. I understood. I think everybody's health insurance has gone up across the board. All that being said, I apologize because I remember when this new step plan was instituted, I didn't realize those issues were taking place and people weren't. I just thought if you were at a
before my
step,
time too.
I thought if you were to step 6, you were gonna slide over to a step 6 on the new scale and they were just gonna adjust things. I didn't realize that they were bumping people down and grouping them together.
Yeah, I wasn't on the boo when this all took place either, so
I don't think anybody here was, yeah.
I was on the boo at the time, but I don't remember it being explained that way or anybody having issues with it at the time.
But I think what's causing some of it is people coming in hired, not at step one.
Yeah,
If you come in hired at, you know, because you have a skill set.
sure. It's compression issues.
Right.
It's no more than when they raised the minimum wage up to $15 an hour. Anybody you had making $15, $16, $17 an hour, it's like. The new guy just got hired at 15. I've been here for 3 years, I'm making 16. This isn't right.
Right.
And then you've got to adjust for it. I'm not saying $10,000 is not a significant amount of money. But it looks like there are 4 individuals who are affected by this, from what I can see on the sheets.
Just for.
Most of them, I know they're good medics. I think they're a benefit to the service, and I wouldn't want to lose any of them if we could at all do so. When you look at what it costs to post, to hire, to train, and the loss of productivity, I think it's a small investment to correct an oversight that was made a number of years ago when this was implemented. So I think it's the right thing to do by these folks. And I'll just put it out there. I appreciate you bringing it to us, and I'm in favor of correcting this. I know there's never a good time to spend extra money. But I think when it comes to taking care of our staff, we take care of our residents. And my hope is that by the end of the year, we will exceed whatever our revenue targets are,
We're on track to do so.
and it would help with that. I do want to discuss your deputy chief, but we can finish this piece up and then we can go into that if that's the way we want to proceed.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to take care of the employees and have them feel they're working in a fair system.
Yeah, and as we say at every select board FinCom joint meeting, what we say tonight can be superseded by events. So I am in agreement too. I think, you know, if the system developed in a way that's left inequity, we need to address the inequity.
And I appreciate your your questions and conversation, because it gets to the heart of part of why that was adjusted back in 2020 or 21, because the incoming step was so low, we kept looking to go to step 3 or 4 to hire people because we weren't competitive at that level. Here we sit at 2026. I don't know what the plan is to relook at that step system and where it sits. But it's probably something that should get looked at every.
So we do, so last year, we separated from the townwide class comp schedule because we felt that it didn't speak to us. The idea with classification compensation is that the different pay grades are based off of substantially equivalent work. And the categories that we were in grouped us in with jobs that were not substantially equivalent to what our folks do. We're not saying we're better or worse, they really have nothing to do with each other. So it's really hard to make a comparison. And so what I did was look at what other people in the area are paying. We looked at the other high payers. We said, where do we fit in? And we came up with a number that was, when I came up with it, put us right at that top level. That's since been passed over. But that's how it goes. You know, we're not looking to be the best paid, but I do want to compensate as much as we possibly can, right? So that's where that came from. And so now we're taking the townwide recommendations and adding it to our class comp, right? Which is slightly different than the rest of the towns. So it's something we'll continue to look at. I look at it regularly. You know, if the industry starts paying dramatically different, then we will have to adjust to that, right?
Yeah.
But right now, we're pretty even.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's also a total value of the entire compensation package that includes the time off, the medical and all that stuff. So it kind of helps to put it more on an even footing, but I agree.
So that's kind of so I think where we should go with this then, before we move on, is, I'm gonna return this to the accountant. And we're gonna see if we can repair the spreadsheet to where, it's giving us more accurate assessments. And conceptually, I'm going to continue along this rationale. Once I have a complete budget based off of this, I will send it to you. And you should have a meeting sooner than later. I hate to keep waiting. But
No.
It's
Necessary.
it is. So just quickly, along the deputy thing, if you want to discuss that at all, or I'm willing to defer.
I just wanted to bring it up because we used to have a deputy chief. When Zoe was our director, I believe it was H.A. Musinski was the deputy at the time. Zoe tendered her resignation. AJ did not want to step up and lead the organization and asked to no longer be the deputy. And the feeling at that time was after we hired a new chief, they would have the opportunity then to select who that deputy would be. So it is something we've had before. My recommendation would be if financial constraints are such that it can't be done now, I would ask that after the year is concluded and we have a better picture of what the finances look like and how far we've exceeded what revenues were, perhaps it's something we look at, even a January 1st start. This way we get 6 months of the year on it, if that's even possible. I know we've done that in the past with some other positions, but I would,
Yeah, we've done it with police positions and
Okay.
stuff.
So just to clarify, in the previous, we had a guy who was already on staff,
Yes.
who was the deputy.
yeah,
And what you're suggesting is hiring a new person, or are you saying hiring somebody inside and not increasing the staff?
We have a couple choices, so ideally, it would make an extra position. But that's a very expensive ask. So what we could do, is we could not have the extra position and we could just assign somebody. Give them their compensation, give them their job title, and they have a new role. But they're now covering a shift. That's great because it saves on payroll costs. It's not great because which job do you want them to do? Do you want them to be a deputy or do you want them to be a paramedic? They need to have the ability to do both, right? But if I'm mandating that, okay, because I would probably want that person during normal office hours. So let's say I schedule them to the impact shift, right? I say, you now work 10-hour shifts, 4 days a week. That way you're here during the week, right? Well, they're gonna be going out on calls and doing work, and that's great, but now they're not being a deputy. Right, now they're not attending to the very reason why they're in town. Right? It's a cheap way to do it. However, it doesn't give you a deputy chief, it gives you a very part-time deputy chief, right?
I also, one of the rationales for doing this is to have a supervisory person at other hours. So deputy, if the deputy is there during weekday hours, you still have weekends, evenings without the supervisory person.
I think what we do is we split it up at that, right? Like we say, this is your week, this is my week, and you know, anything that comes up weekend, overnight, you know, that's yours to deal with. This time it's mine to deal with, right? So it kind of distributes that.
But, so. Not that. You'd pay him the deputy rate all the time, but. Is it? Like to start out, to test run it, whatever, could you? You know, if you're looking at, could you put him 20 hours a week? On the ambulance and then 20 hours a week. In the office doing admin or, you know, doing these tasks to see how that goes and if there really is. I know in theory, you can come up probably with 80 hours of work for them to do. I get that, but then you're only looking at. You know, for the first 6 months or whatever, only covering 20 hours of the ambulance when they're off shift doing that deputy admin work. And then 20 hours they're working on the ambulance and kind of,
I think what I would do, if I were gonna go that route and they were scheduled for an ambulance, I might I might just on the schedule put a third spot. And if per diems were able to pick that up and backfill it, then that opens up the deputy position to be off the ambulance. Because one of the benefits to the deputy being on during the day is that if both trucks are fully staffed and a third call comes in, we have a third ALS ambulance. Me and the deputy can go do the third call.
Mhm.
right, and currently don't have that ability. Right, and as we saw last week when we did the audit of mutual aid received, that is the number one reason why mutual aid comes into town, is because we're already out on our calls. Right,
So this goes back to our conversation about getting professional actuarial help to study this question, because if you raise and you hire a deputy and you add $120,000 or $140,000 to the cost of running the business, and the return is 100, it doesn't make sense to do it. And from just a strictly numbers thing, it might make sense to do it from, I'm protecting my neighbor and I'm not questioning which is the more valuable thing. I mean, life is life. But we could talk about this
Yeah,
on and on, and unless you have data that says this makes sense for this reason, then you can just ignore the data and say, well, we're doing this because we believe it's the right thing to do for our community, even if it is costing us money. But if we do it in the absence of the data, then we're making a decision that's based on nothing. So I would argue that we should get the step that we talked about before first, then revisit this. That's my case.
Yeah, and to take off on what you said, if it's gonna cost us, argument's sake, $130,000, $140,000 all in, and we can generate $100,000 in revenue because we don't have to have mutual aid come in and take those
Right.
calls, then that position's only costing us $40,000.
Exactly. But we'll be doing that based on
Right,
data.
that makes a ton of sense. So I think that's probably the way to go about it, is let's continue along the path of getting our data. And we can revisit the deputy idea. And then back to the, the payroll budget thing, we'll do just what we're talking, so. I think we get to get away without voting tonight.
do we need a motion on adjusting the payroll for those 4 affected
It's
employees?
too early, I think we need
Yeah.
Okay.
I would
later numbers.
more complete information.
so, again. Just. Trying to come up with a way to get you the help you need during, to get some of this admin work done. Do you have tasks that with minimal handover training, help, getting somebody up to speed could be done by, having a per diem come in and freeing up somebody?
So right now, we're a little lucky in that, I've got somebody out, by injury right now. Who's able to do a lot of this. And so we've got some support with.
Yeah,
And that's been helpful, and we have at different times. Had that scenario, and some people are able to contribute more than others based on their. Abilities and acumen, right?
Yeah.
Or they're even interested in doing it, right? Like certain things I can assign, certain things I can't, right?
right. So I mean, you can't have me do a spreadsheet because it,
This will end up with this, right?
well, I wouldn't even come close to it, so.
I think. The other idea is, I can't rely on that. Right, so right now, what happens is when I have that support, it's really nice because I'm really able to attend to things like the budget. And I'm able to do things like get new ambulances and, I've got a legislative breakfast coming up.
Yeah.
And I can actually do things that are, really suitable. But if I'm doing administrative work, if I'm just, pounding out payroll and I'm spending half the day on schedule and filling, open shifts and, trying to approve people's, education online and, all of these things uniquely aren't huge. They don't take a ton of time. But when you add them up, it's a ton of work, right? So I'm fine doing it, but it takes me away from things that I could be doing to really make our department better, right?
No, that's why I was just wondering if there was somebody that's really, you know, skilled at this and you could, you know, bring a per diem in to free that person, you know, somebody up to help you for a couple days here and there.
There's a couple folks on our department that would be really well suited to this position, and you know, I can't make any statements about what I think would happen. This would not look like a lieutenant promotion. That's even built into that promotion policy that the deputy chief is not part of this policy. This would, you know, look a lot different. And we don't, you know, it's all conceptual at this point, so.
Yeah, it also gets down to, are you looking for a second supervisory person or an admin?
No, I'm looking for a supervisory person, right? Absolutely.
So that you're not the phone call every 24.
I don't mind being
65.
24/7 guy, but you know, it's not fair to the department, to be honest, right? So. Anyway, all right, I think we can move on unless there's any other discussion. Where did my problem go? Here we go. All right, the last thing we were gonna talk about is mutual aid to Hatfield. All right. So. The formula that I've come up with, well, the formula, Christopher Dunn came up with a very nice way of presenting the formula. What I came up with was, we looked at first 2 quarters of the fiscal year. We looked at the numbers. We had done 903 calls total, 97 of which were to Hatfield. That's just over 10% of our volume was going to Hatfield, nights and weekends total, right? We looked at that half year of operating expenses. And we took that number. And the allowable charges for Hatfield being deducted. So allowable charges, there are different tiers of charges that we bill, right? So there's what we bill, what we're allowed to bill through Medicare, and then there's what we actually get paid, and they're all very different numbers, right? Remember, we overcharge to subsidize the low payment from government payers, right? So we may charge, so let's say this person has Medicare and we charge $2,000 for the ambulance trip, and then Medicare pays $600. We then have to write off that $1,400, even though we never expected to get it in the first place. That's what we charged, right? The next person has private insurance and they pay the $2,000, right? So that subsidizes what we didn't get paid from the public payer, right? That's medical billing in a nutshell, right? And that's why your private premiums go up so high, right? Because you are subsidizing it, right? It's a deeply flawed system, but it is the system that we work under. And it's not just us, this is anybody, it's hospitals, it's primary care offices, it's specialists, it's ambulances, right? So what this formula looks at is the allowable charges. We may get more than that, we may get less than that, but that's what Medicare says we're allowed to charge Medicare. We could get more if it's a private payer. We could get way less if it's pay. We don't know what it's gonna be, right? But in general, our reimbursements from Hatfield are pretty much in line with the allowable charge, because some people have private insurance and some people have Medicaid and some people have Medicare. Some people are uninsured. It's a very different town, demographically than our three towns, right? So what we look at is this. That comes down to $46,101, and I deduct the allowable charges. This gives Hatfield a deal. All right, it says we're already making money off of your call, so I'm gonna deduct the allowable charges. And this brings it out to just under $350 a call. So if we do a $350 service charge, meaning they tone us out, we charge them $350, whether we get on scene, whether we transport or not. It's $350 to call South County EMS, right?
That the town of Hatfield pays, not the person making the call.
Town of Hatfield, correct.
Yeah,
Now, we're still gonna bill the call,
you're right. Oh, no, I get that. Yeah.
right? And we'll follow the same exact rules that we do in our three, which is if all you have is Medicare or Medicaid, that's it. We're not gonna balance bill it, right? But we're still gonna take that reimbursement, right? And if you do have private insurance, well, then we'll take the bigger balance, right? So that gives us this $350. I think it's fairly palatable. Because if you were Hatfield and I came to you and I said, hey, I want to charge you this vast sum of money for the year, right? It might turn me away from wanting to do it. They've already shown that they don't want to pay a huge amount of money to cover overnight and weekend ambulance coverage, right? If I go to them and I say, okay, we're gonna do it on a per call basis, I know Northampton offered them, I think it was $500 per call, and they declined that. Right? If I say 350, because they're getting that deal, we're taking off the allowable charge. It's still good for us, and it's still very palatable for them, because where else are they gonna find overnight and weekend ambulance coverage, 2 paramedics for under $70,000 a year? That doesn't even cover the cost of a single employee. So it is a good deal for Hatfield to do it, because as we discussed, I don't want to lose the revenue. I want to continue getting that revenue. But this at least covers that gap. Do you know what that $70,000 covers? Is our fuel and vehicle maintenance line items. It pays our vehicle budget for the whole year. Right, so that's always been the conversation that's been brought to me is, what is this doing to wear and tear of the ambulances, and what is this doing?
So are we gonna charge that $350 per call only during nights and weekends? If there's a call there during the day, and again, this is just, I'm throwing it out there. If there's a call there during the day that we go on, to me, that's part of the mutual aid thing,
Yeah, sure.
because during day shifts, they're able to respond to us and give us mutual aid. Day shifts are mutual. I don't think nights, weekends, when they don't have coverage.
I'm just looking at a data mining nightmare.
No, I understand, but,
Yeah, okay, so.
because we wouldn't want them turning around and charging us.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Can I get one question?
Please.
How many times does Hatfield respond here in a day during the daytime?
In the last year and a half, they've come here, I believe.
So, yeah, I had a similar conversation with him. I said, we'll just make the same offer. If you come from mutual aid, we'll pay you 350 curb fee and you bill. If we go to you, no matter what happens, you're gonna pay us 350 for the call out.
Right.
And we're gonna bill. And I'll take that deal. Rather than what the deal we have now.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, 'cause we'll wash whatever $350 we have to pay them against what we're getting back.
Can you do that with Conway?
Well, that was gonna be my question, Ken, what can we do with Conway and Greenfield?
So I think Conway is a different discussion entirely. And I'm gonna take a different angle with Conlane. Greenfield is also a very different discussion. Greenfield has a very robust 24/7 system. They also, we're a backup to a backup in Greenfield. We're not a primary agency.
But we're still providing.
We
fair
still
number of-
do a fair amount. But it's just completely a different scenario.
How,
So
how many times does Greenfield come down to Deerfield?
regularly,
They do.
yeah, they're one of our biggest
Then it's
responders.
a mutual aid pattern.
Right, Greenfield Fire and AMR are very good to us. It's
So you-
very beneficial. So, that, I agree, it is mutual aid. Yeah, it looks like a lot of calls on paper, but this works two ways. Hatfield, again, I like going and doing the Hatfield calls because I enjoy the revenue. More than revenue, I like the idea that there are people that need an ambulance and we can provide that level of care. That's wonderful. But I don't think that our budget should suffer for doing that if they're gonna say no. So the idea is, I think this is an easy pill for Hatfield to swallow. It's not that much money, right? It's less than the cost of a single employee. Right, so it's a great deal for them. But it's a great deal for us too. Because we get to cover all of that vehicle cost. And we still get to bill out the calls, we don't lose that revenue. We don't have any of the issues from just not being utilized. It ups our utilization. We've demonstrated that it's not really impacting the mutual aid we receive. There will be the occasional call, but it's the exception to the rule. And it's kind of a win-win. So if we go with this, what I would do is I would draft up a very nice letter. I could present it to their town. I'm happy to go speak with their select board. I'm happy to go speak with whoever they want. That's fine. All of this I would run through. Anything I send them, I would run through Town of Deerfield. First, I would start with Christopher Dunn, probably through council. After that, before sending it out, but that would be the pathway. And see if they bite. Right? They could say no, we're not paying that. And if that happens, we say, okay, well, we're just not going to respond anymore. And I don't want to strong arm, but I don't think they have any other options. They've already told Northampton no. If they do, an RFP and they try and get private coverage, or that's gonna cost them way more than it would just to hire a couple of dudes to.
The RFP is gonna cost them more.
Exactly, right? The RFP would cost more than what we're asking for a year.
Yeah,
Right? So it is a juicy, good deal for Hatfield to take this up. And I think it approximates the lost revenue. For covering those costs on our end, so. What are your thoughts?
It's a good test
Yeah,
scenario, and even if they came back and said, well, we can't do 350, but we can do 325. I mean, at least you're talking at that point. I mean, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, and the negotiation.
it starts a conversation.
Yeah.
and I think if that happened, you go back and say, no, we ran our numbers, this is what we're.
Yeah, exactly. And you say, look, this is wear and tear on the vehicles, it's fuel, it's tires, it's, staff, it's, health insurance.
Isn't the number we pulled out of thin
Yeah,
air.
this is a defensible number based on what it costs to run that ambulance out the door.
There is a formula.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fair formula.
I think it's a very fair formula because what you need to be able to show them is we did 10% of the calls. You wanna pay 10% of our budget?
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're all paying,
Right.
We do, yeah, that's 10% of our calls. We're doing. I don't know what the last number was, but I think we're doing 50% of their calls.
30, at least a third anyhow, last year.
Right, but I'm just saying, if they wanna look at our whole budget and see what our assessments are.
That's right, 'cause you're
And
working.
we have data here that says we did 10.74.
You're basing this strictly on the operating expenses, not
Yeah,
the overhead.
we're not price gouging or anything.
Yeah. We're giving you one hell of a deal.
I think it's very fair.
We would love for you to provide service to our community. We'll pay you $350 a month.
Exactly, and that's how you phrase it, it's like, this is gonna be mutual. And the reality is that it's never gonna be, there's never gonna be an even meet in the middle.
Right.
But if it ever evolved, we're still getting service to our community.
Yeah.
And,
And this is $350 based on what the first half of this year was, based on what happens with this budget going forward.
yeah,
There may need to be a follow-up in the near future about costs have escalated.
yeah,
I would do a 1-year contract.
Yeah. And I think that would be fair, and I think a 1-year deal with, yeah, and we just let them know, hey, we're basing it on the previous year's service and what it costs us. And next year, we'll be back to readjust this based on what happens and what our costs are.
Absolutely.
And we're not future-proofing this, we're not charging you $450 in anticipation of what it's gonna cost. We're charging you based on what it was costing us, and we'll eat that cost initially. And then we'll come back to you to help make it up.
I'm hopeful that this approach is the most accommodating for all parties, right?
I think once people get used to having a system in place that serves their community and it doesn't price gouge them, they're gonna be disinclined to give it up.
Oh, I think they won't give it up. I think the hurdle is their town meeting this year when this line item comes on.
There's definitely hurdles between communities who have ambulance service and those that don't.
Yeah.
And for a long time, those that didn't pay anything for it.
Right.
And now it's getting to the point that those who do are servicing those who don't, and
Right,
it needs to be fair because those who do can't continue to pay for those who don't.
yeah. Basically.
And we're not looking to gouge, we're not even breaking even on this.
Right.
As I said, we're just looking at operating costs, not,
Yes,
which is not our whole budget.
so I think it's a good place to start.
If you vote to approve this, this is what I'll run with. And I'll update all of you after I have a package ready to bring to Hatfield, which is gonna be sooner than later. I'll make it a priority. So that we have enough time to get this, on their warrant, so that they can look at it. Who knows, maybe they come back and they're like, no, we're just gonna hire some people. And if that's the case, then
Great.
okay, I'll be sad to lose that revenue stream. Cause it's not insignificant, but I also think, well, good, that's good for Hatfield, and that just helps us because now maybe they are a really good mutual partner. That would be outstanding. So I think it's really tough to lose this.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the $350 charge as a fee to respond to Hatfield and ask our chief to draft a 1-year agreement.
Second.
Need further discussion? All those in favor?
Right.
Aye. Unanimous. The Conway discussion, is that table for another night, or is that something we want to?
I would like to follow up on that another night. So I'm reaching out to their folks and I want to have a really good discussion about what some possibilities may be. And I just think it's premature if we discuss it.
Yeah, in the interim, just so you're aware, we have, Crystal, we're having a meeting on Friday with the South County Shared Budget Committee. And Crystal and I are out with the PAs and thinking on people. And I think that Christopher has had a conversation with Conway's TA about possible scenarios where they come into the family. Of course, we would be involved in all that, but could be a very good thing for them and certainly, help us
Okay.
under the right conditions.
There's a lot of scenarios that, different avenues that we could follow up with that arrangement. I mean, and so I think it's really worthwhile getting some good information and just getting some intent from them. So I will follow.
How was your new ambulance?
Beautiful.
I was just gonna say, I was going in tonight.
It's really nice.
Sounds good when the doors
Come by and
close.
see it. Yeah, no, they close, they, it's shiny,
Is it on the road yet, or is it still waiting
gonna be a
for?
few more weeks. It won't be long. So stop by and see it, it's cool.
I thought your old ones were pretty good.
They were. They're
Well, all right.
correct.
I can't help it, I'm still fond of that.
Well, I just took 2 rides there, and so, you know, they still work very well.
Good to hear. All right, that's all I have.
Any other new business?
I asked Fred earlier how Whately was looking at their budget season, and I asked you the same question. How's Sunderland looking? Because we're looking at a tsunami.
You mean that you have that much money that it's just rolling in?
No, I mean.
Well, like a gaping sinkhole.
Is that they just took it all away? Yeah.
I think we're gonna get swamped.
For us, it's just kind of too early to tell, even.
I know, we're doom
We
scroll.
just got cherry sheets and things like that, so
That was my answer as well.
We don't know what the school.
We need to get the school numbers,
Yeah.
that's the tough one.
And figure out what our health increase is gonna be. So, well,
And even once we get that number, it may not be a final.
no,
Well, no, because they're taking the GLP-1 meds off of health insurance, and I guess that is just
That's what's driving
phenomenal
it. But
costs.
Yeah.
And just by taking that one med off, supposedly it's gonna,
supposedly,
Well,
supposedly.
do you know how many
have-
people are on that?
I'm sorry?
Do you know how many people are
I
on
have
that?
no clue.
You're talking,
1 in 8 adults.
you remember that this.
12.5% of the population.
This society today is all overweight. Everyone wants to lose the weight, so, and this is a fast way and easy way to do it.
easy until they pay their taxes.
It's easy, it's easy until we have the long-term outcomes. and
Exactly,
we
as to what
find
it's
10
doing.
years down the
Yeah.
road, and
Exactly.
find out what it really does.
Yeah.
So. It's insane. Well, what happened with our plan, which we're on a different health plan than Sunderland.
Yeah.
So. They said that the GLP-1s were the cause of first increase. And then they said, so we're not gonna cover them anymore. But they increased it again.
I was gonna say,
That's what
Didn't do anything
supposedly
for it.
Yeah, 'cause
is.
And there was a post-COVID, people who put off surgeries, put off all kinds of stuff, that started coming into it. You'd think in 2026, we'd be post-COVID already, but. No,
you still can't get into emergency rooms. You still can't get a bed. It's still, and I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about Mass General in Boston. I go in there and walk by their emergency room and they are out in the hallway and there's like 50 people I'm looking at. And when you go into the emergency room, they've got stretchers around the nurse's desk, not just, down the hallway type of thing. They are everywhere. They're just,
And
They
that's
just
in an area
overlook.
that's well stocked with hospitals, imagine
exactly.
going out to rural.
And that's what I asked them. I says,
Areas.
is this at every hospital in Boston?
With all that being said, when you get the budget completed and we need to reconvene, do we want to take a poke and put something on the calendar tonight, or you just want to send it out and then follow up with an email and we'll discuss it and
Yeah.
pick a date?
Let's pick a date down the road, but I'm gonna try and. Roll through this really quickly so that we have something more concrete to give to people. I know that, all of the towns are looking for this. right now. And you know, it's just, it's still early, but, you know. So, Tim, you had asked me a question, if this had been the potential Hatfield revenues had been factored into service revenues, and the answer is no. Because, I just approached it very conservatively. So the service revenues that I put on this year's budget are identical to this year's. And I know we're going to exceed that. But if we lose Hatfield completely, I don't know if next year will be the same. And it could be more. I'd be happy if it was more. Right? So I'm just kind of playing it safe.
Well, you can't assume a deal that hasn't been done yet.
That's exactly.
Yeah, but what I meant was, yeah, but basically. It's good to know the rough number.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do we want to try to take aim for Tuesday, March 3rd?
Maybe, I mean, I can just reach out.
when was it that we were, Julie Chalpoff, finance chair, is trying to arrange. 3 towns all meeting.
Yes.
To see the SCEMS budget. I think that we have a tentative date, but
We had a list of like 3 dates, but,
Yeah.
I didn't get any follow-up. That's the best thing in the world, by the way.
but probably we want to meet before then.
Okay.
So what do you think? He was thinking like. Trying to do March 3rd, is that what you want? I got a frontier budget hearing that night, which is really important.
All right. What about, I'm out of town the week before, but you can still go ahead and meet. I don't know, that gives us 3 weeks.
And it's also tough to schedule on 4 of the 6 of us are here.
Okay,
2 people.
Yeah.
I don't have input from.
Why don't we just not pick a date right now?
Okay.
Let me get this, squared away and we will, I mean, maybe we can meet sooner than that. Right? Would be
Okay.
ideal. I think the more discussion we have about this, the better. And if we have some time, it's really good.
Okay.
So I will reach out to you by email, in soon as I have something concrete and, I'm gonna pursue it based off of that, that plan B. That's the wrong way to put it.
the second budget option.
Yeah, 'cause that might be coming off, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And, we'll take it from there.
Okay,
All right, thank you, everyone.
motion to adjourn.
Do you want to think about a couple of
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, hang on, do we have any public comments?
I don't see any hands.
No hands?
Right.
Okay, there being no public comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Meeting out at 7:21 PM, Tuesday, February 3rd. Thank you very much.
So Fred, you know